This is the Long War. I'm Rob Baer, and joining me once again are my partners in crime, Kenny Boucher and Wyatt Turk. What's up, guys?
Yo, dog, great to be here.
Yeah, what's up?
I think so we just did the pregame, so I'm talking about normal Warhammer stuff, but I don't think we talked about the most important thing that happened to us in the last 24 years, and that is Gladiator 2.
Oh yeah, fuck.
I saw the trailer for that and
Yeah.
I was very confused for a minute. I was
What were
like,
you confused about?
that it was happening like that.
Oh, it's more than happening.
Yeah.
Dude, I still have
Uh,
memories of falling asleep. Do you remember like when you would put a DVD in a DVD player
The
and there's like a
music, yeah.
soundtrack in the background and you're in the DVD menu and it just loops? I would put that
Yep.
shit in my old PlayStation and fucking fall asleep to that shit every night, endlessly. That
I'm
soundtrack plays through my head constantly.
I'm
yeah, dude,
pretty
like
sure I have the original soundtrack still
Not the
on disc.
soundtrack, the DVD menu.
Oh yeah, the intro, the menu intro.
The the
I think
the
it was
the nine
last night.
bars and
Yeah, like I saw a thing on Facebook that was like a poster. And it was like Pedro Pascal, Gladiator 2. And I was like, oh, that's some cool Photoshop. That's like a like a college kid probably did that for their like a
with
project
AI
or
these
something.
days, solid
And
Yeah,
then
it's
I
good to
was
be
like
suspicious.
waiting for my gym appointment yesterday, and the trailer popped up on on my phone. And I was like, this is fucking real. This is happening. Okay, like okay. I mean, I'll probably watch it, but I was very surprised that was real. I was like, how did they make this a sequel? Like this, what?
Yeah, they tied it in too. I guess the kid is Lucius, or the main character is Lucius, the kid from the first one.
I think he's just
Commodus'
like a
son.
person. I don't think he's
No, in
like
the
based on
credits,
Oh, his sister's
his
son.
character has it says Lucius played by,
okay, well,
so it is Lucius, like the kid,
interesting.
Brutal.
right?
That is the most important thing. You're right.
I
Thank you
was like,
for
I don't know how we just didn't talk about this.
thank
Like,
you. Well, it happened. We've been gone for a week, dude.
this just happened yesterday. And yeah, I thought it was AI at first too. And I was like, there's no way this is real. Denzel Washington,
This is
like
all. This is all my
Pedro
mom.
Pascal.
This is all my mom's been
Yeah,
talking about.
it
And
literally
then
does not make sense.
and then I saw Connie Nelson, Neeson, whatever her
It's
name is.
it's
And I
too
was
hot.
like,
It's too hype. It's too hype. Like dude. I remember. Dude. Anyway, everyone acknowledges that Gladiator is the hypest shit of all time, and Gladiator 2.
okay.
We're all looking forward
Just
to it.
just making
Everyone
sure.
on Earth, not one person disagrees with this.
I don't think you can.
No.
That's like
There was
100%.
I saw in a trailer there's a dude riding a rhino.
Yep, there's a
And
rhino.
the guy's gonna
100.
fight. He's gonna fight that. And I was like, dude, the whoever is directing this has to be like a Dark Souls fan. Like
Yep.
this is
Up in the ante, son. With all the new pop culture, so much stuff has happened since
I
Gladiator
don't know,
1.
dude. Like if I was a gladiator and I walked out
So
and the
much
fucking
social
boss music
media.
started playing and the dude rides a
A juggernaut
rhinoceros,
of corn
and I
shows
would
up
just be
and with a
like,
fucking
I'm
fuck.
like there's no amount of dodge rolling that's gonna get me out of this, dude. Like I'm cooked. Like just take me out.
Yeah, fuck.
Best thing
So
ever.
so we took last week off. Hopefully everyone who's listening to this podcast is doing at work. Happy 4th of July. Hopefully you guys didn't blow any fingers off. I shot a bunch of fireworks off my aunt's house, and I went down and bought them at the fireworks stand in front of Walmart.
That sounds
First one I shot off, my dad is like, well, they're all sitting in the chairs, chilling by the pool. My dad goes, "What the hell is that? That ain't legal. Where'd you buy that?" He was so mad because it was
Tell him you
preposterous.
bought it at the Circle K.
I was like, dude, I bought this shit at Walmart, dude, in Florida. He's like, what? My dad could not process. I mean, this is a full on like 8 tube, shoot him in the air 100 feet and blow him up. Like he was like, where the fuck did you buy that? That's illegal. I'm like, bro, I bought that like 2 miles north at Walmart, dude.
yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it shocked me. I, when I lit that bitch and walked, it took a couple steps back. I took a couple more steps back. I was like, ooh.
But once it started going, you're like, okay, more. We
I was
need more
like,
space.
this is one of those fireworks that if it like, short fused on me and like just blew up on the street, this would be a problem.
Or like it tipped over and like launched them all at the house or whatever.
Your house burned down. 100% chance is, but yeah. So hopefully everyone had a good 4th of July. We took the week off. Some things that happened, other
You're
It's
worth it, Kenny.
not as slow of a news week as one might think, because like lots of stuff. We just talked about Gladiator. We're gonna talk about Shapeways. We're gonna talk about GW, Dumpster Wars Volume 2. We're gonna talk about why it went to a GT, and we have some informed opinions of secret missions.
Wyatt's secret recipe to make top 8.
Sleep in, baby.
Yo,
Sleep in round first
bro,
round, second day.
that is now officially a legitimate strategy. I might do that every turn.
No, it's genius because like submarining has been a strategy since day one,
yeah.
right? But you figured out how to just make the whole thing easier, right? Because we had to get up, put our models on the table, right? And you know, like you're like, how about I just sleep?
There's a whole lead up to how that occurred.
See, I always just like miss the first game on day 1 because I'd be hungover due to tequila or some other issue.
Dollar Long Islands.
The $1 Long Island iced teas, you know, and I would just miss the first game, and then instead of going up, it would just go downhill from there.
How do you lose worse than not showing up? Rob will show you.
Yeah, so don't.
So we'll talk about this GT in our meat and potato section. So let's kick it off with a classic Peabody award-winning segment with Wyatt Turkles. We're all to the Cave of Wonders and Tough Nuts About the Lamp.
Would you rather own a house right now or have $1 million in your bank account? But you don't own anything.
Wait, what do you mean anything?
Like you don't own a house, like you're renting, like you don't own your car, you're paying a payment on it, that kind of shit.
So I would no longer own my truck and have a car payment on it.
Yeah.
Like same truck.
You have like a big TV, like you're getting it from like Rent a Center, dude. Like you don't own
gosh. What's your monthly payment on all that stuff?
I mean, is it like market value? Like suddenly I have a computer worth what I paid for it and I still owe on it.
Yes.
Suddenly I have a truck worth whatever the Blue Book value is right now and I still owe on it.
Yeah. Like you own a house, like
my cell phone
free and clear, like no mortgage, like you own it free and clear, or you have $1 million in the bank, but like you don't own any assets.
But my cell phone lease resets to how much it cost when I bought it, like, you know, like everything like that, right? This Yeti mic I'm using.
I wouldn't say like a reset, but like, yeah, you don't own
it. In my current situation, I feel like $1 million, but is $1 million tax free?
Yeah, it's in your bank account.
Like I've already paid. Well,
yeah. All that stuff has already happened. It's in your bank account.
Okay, like it is currently my personal
liquid
money.
Asset cash.
I'll take $1 million.
I mean, if you put right now, you can get high yield at like 4-5%. So you put that $1 million in, you're gonna be making 45,000, 50,000 back. I mean, you still have to pay taxes on that. And that's a no risk, right? Like you don't have to figure out stocks. You don't have to, you just put it in there and forget about it. And that's your salary, which, I mean, if you live, I mean, 40, 45, 50,000.
You gotta pay off your car, gotta pay off, you know.
Well, I mean, I assume you still have a job that's
oh yeah, that's right.
Paying your bills, but then this other stuff, you know, you would just have that money just chilling, coming back, and then if you keep reinvesting it back in the thing.
Okay, now, but here's the other question: I own a house, clean and fair, like free and clear. Do I get to pick the house?
Yeah, but it's going to be within reason, right?
Well,
like you're not getting the Playboy Mansion, dude. But
I mean,
if we're talking like market average, let's say like 4.5 bedrooms, maybe like 3 bedrooms in an office, 3 bathrooms, got a little bit of a yard, like, you know, like a neighborhood
3 bathrooms.
House.
That's decadent.
I mean,
we have like a master. You have like
could I acquire a home worth more than $1 million? I
guess it would depend on where you live.
And when you lived,
right? And so, if I would I would owe my own property tax and everything still.
Like, let's just say, quote unquote, a nice house. So the house I'm kind of thinking maybe like a 2-story house that I described in Texas would cost maybe $400,000 to $500,000. In California, that might be 1.5, 2, or higher, depending on location. But like market average, probably 1.5.
So I can't. I own a house in the state I currently I'm a resident of.
Yeah.
Oh, like your current area.
Current state or fucking county.
Oh, well, yeah, that might be a disadvantage
Because if
for
it's
you.
county, it's $1 million, no questions. That's the only answer.
Oh, I got you. Yeah.
If I can go buy a house in Miami, just own it. That might be a better deal than taking the $1 million.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, there is something to be said for being liquid, because liquidity is, well, I mean,
Well,
it's
well,
its own asset.
It is its own asset, but also it is a depreciating asset where historically houses at least are always appreciated.
True.
But you've offset that with your 5% high yield strategy a little bit.
Well, yeah, if you keep investing it year after year, I mean, you're technically compounding at that point.
Yeah.
But like,
I mean, that's like a future strategy, which is fine. But we're talking like the genie's in front of you. Make up your mind. What's your like on the spot choice?
On the spot, 1 million. There's
Yeah,
no
I
way.
think-
I'll just take it because it's so few. It's less moving parts.
yeah, I think at this year the million's worth it. I mean, obviously a house is good, but you know, and that's the thing that's very hard to get for a lot of people these days.
It'd be hilarious because my boomer dad will still be like, "This is why you don't have a house, right here.
This is
Irresponsible."
it, yeah.
I'm like, I have $1 million, Dad.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's like,
I mean,
"You're gonna
obviously-
spend it all at Starbucks, aren't you?"
Yeah, and what is it? Avocado toast?
Well, now that you say it, I'm gonna put all of it in Starbucks stocks.
Call it Starbies.
You
You gotta call it Starbies. That's what the kids are calling it out here.
So my new thing is drinking twisted teas, and I call them teasies.
Oh my god, that's so good.
And then it turns out Dunkin' Donuts makes one, and I call that Deezies.
You know they like rebranded. They're not even Dunkin' Donuts anymore. They're just Dunkin'.
Really?
Yeah, and like no bullshit.
You want to go to Dunkin'? You like Dunkin'?
Yeah, absolutely. I
Like,
mean, I'll
see,
go
I
there.
think that opens up a whole new because, bro, not a week goes by that I don't hit somebody with, "Hey, you like Wendy's? You want to go to Wendy's?" Bro, I catch someone every week with that. And they're like, "Yeah," I'm like, "Wendy's nuts in your mouth." Been doing that since I was 16. Not a week goes by. Now you're telling me it's Dunkin', bro. I have a whole new
Just
fucking.
opened it up.
Dude, I can mix it up now.
Yeah, you won't get me with that.
Well, unfortunately, I don't have a fucking $1 million or a house. So tight. Live with my parents. Now I'm depressed. Thanks, Wyatt.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't have anything to add to that. I don't know. Houses are problems, man. They're a lot goes wrong. And every time somebody comes out, that's $300. Oh,
Yeah.
$300. What? Oh, $300.
Mm-hmm.
I told you all about what happened with over Thanksgiving when the roots got in the water line and the water was like leaking for like 3 days before I realized it. And like the water bill was like
Oh yeah.
like $500, and then
That's right.
to get under it, I had to rip up my porch, my patio.
Being a homeowner sucks.
It can be a bit of a nightmare sometimes because it's it's all on you, or it doesn't get fixed.
So
But yeah, I want to live with my parents. It's true.
yeah, taco grinders. Live with your parents, tight. Oh yeah, it is tight. I had my mom's meatloaf, leftover meatloaf on a sandwich for lunch today. I had my mom made mac and cheese the other day, homemade style. She made hot dogs the day before.
Nice.
Ballin'. She came out.
Damn,
They came
dude.
home with leftover with Chinese food the other day. I was like, "Get this shit out of here, mom! I want fucking Chinese food. Give me some fucking meatloaf, man.
It was like Taco Bell or something.
I don't want fast food, man. My mom makes fun. I'm getting my mom's homemade shit.
Oh, true.
Yeah, taco grinder. He's like, good meatloaf is a whole different level. Yeah, my mom's been perfecting this recipe. She's 72, man. She's been perfecting this recipe since before I was born. Why am I gonna eat some Chinese food?
He makes a good point.
That shit's almost gluten free.
Chinese food?
No, meatloaf.
Yeah, who really suspected they put breadcrumbs in there to keep all that delicious meat together?
That's
And
every.
I went a very long amount of time without knowing that they did that for
Yeah.
meatloaf and meatballs.
I 100% didn't know
You would think
until
with a name like meatloaf and meatballs, you're like, it's just meat, right?
Yeah, it's
They're
just
like,
meat.
No,
It just-
actually, there's a lot of bread in it.
You
Like,
go
what
to
the
make your
fuck?
own, and it just is ground beef, and you're like, what the hell?
And then when you think about it, you're like, oh wait, every time I make hamburgers, the patties, the shit would come apart.
Maybe I should throw some
Oh.
breadcrumbs in the bitches.
Maybe there's something to this like breadcrumb thing.
Mm-hmm.
Never
then
had
you
that
get
problem with
gluten in it.
hamburgers.
It all falls apart.
All right, Rob, do some news. Hit those notes.
Do some news. So we already covered the most important thing in the past 24 years, and that's Gladiator 2. So hopefully we see some more trailers for that one here soon. That has me enthralled. I would definitely like to know more. Let's see, on the GW front, what is happening? Well, there hasn't been a whole lot of teasers or new releases. This week is some Black Library books. Didn't expect that. I guess theoretically, if you think about it, the only 40K releases in the past month were for stuffed animals that aren't even available yet. They would be they're going to be available to order in the next few months, is what they said. So technically, we haven't had a 40K release in over a month, which it's starting to become a pretty scratchy summer, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
I
Crack.
think a lot of yep. Kenny said it best. I was just gonna let it linger, but there's that. So a lot of other stuff's going down now. Tacoma Open is next week. It starts on the 19th, which is a Friday, which leads me to believe that if you haven't read the article already, there is rumored to be a preview at Tacoma Open, which would definitely make sense. We haven't seen a preview since May. And the last time they did a preview in the summer, it was the not 40K preview that came out right after 40K 10th edition. And they put out the news on the 26th, and it was on July 1st. So they don't have to give a whole lot of notice for the previews. They can just be like, "Hey, it's a Monday. We're having a preview. It's Thursday. Get ready, nerds!" And we'll all be there. We'll all be there. So, so look, maybe for a preview next week or not. Who knows? But that's what the rumors are saying out there. This week, Skaven Tide officially hits store shelves. Maybe some stores for much longer than they anticipate because, well, it's already kind of getting panned. We talked about it, that the word was that they are making too many, and a lot of stores weren't going to order as many because they got burned in the past, and players were kind of like, I don't know, it costs a lot. A lot of things, a lot of factors going into it that probably not going to make it a good release. It did not sell out. It still isn't sold out. Actually, the last two, including the last two major AOS box sets have not sold out. So it's not a good precedent. And there's a lot of reasons why. We've talked about it, but I did want to mention that a lot of smaller stores have checked in with me. They got their shipments already, they got their orders, and a lot of smaller accounts. And when I say smaller, I mean, so they required stores to buy these in twos because two boxes fit in a case. So you had to buy them in twos, which they didn't tell stores at first. So if a store was like, "Hey, I want 3," they would call them up and be like, "Hey, do you really want 4?" Because they come, case packs. And I know a couple of stores that were like, "Nah, I just want 2 then." And it kind of went the wrong way with it. Well, in GW's terms. So there was a little bit of that. So then, and I actually forgot to mention this in the pre-show, what they started to do late last week was they were calling stores back and they're like, "Hey, you got some like some of those old battle tones laying around, right? The ones that are out of date now." And the store's like, "Yeah, I got a few of those." Well, how many you can return to us for a credit are directly dependent on how many Skaven Tides you're ordering. And we're like, "Wait, what?" And there's a sliding scale of, if you order this many Skaven Tides, you can return this many battle
then
tones.
you can claim, yeah.
Which is,
and that's that's boots on the ground journalism. Like someone said, so that's real.
That is real. they sent out well, no, they didn't put it in writing this time. They
Of
actually
course
did the
not.
same thing.
You would not put that in writing. Yeah.
No. But they did call stores, all the stores I talked to said they had the same story, I had the same ratio. And not a single one ordered more because they're like, no. The fact that GW isn't taking back these out-of-date materials is preposterous. Like, just straight up. Like, you came out
Bro,
with this edition.
did I ever tell you how this one time I bought a Xbox 360
Okay.
and I had a HD DVD player. This is right. This is that
Right.
era,
Yeah.
and then the PlayStations all had the Blu-rays. Bro, I got just a random rebate in the mail from Microsoft. Like just a couple years later, and it was like Microsoft doesn't support outdated technology and blah 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 blah. And it was literally a refund for my fucking HD DVD player.
Yeah,
Like-
it didn't get sold very often.
Like
Or
front,
very
like
long.
they're like unsupported dead technology. Like they're like, here's your money back. Like I never filed a piece of paperwork. Nothing, dude. Just showed up. Like I'm like, yeah, tight, nice, right? GW is like, well, technically the credit is based on how many Microsoft Store transactions you have with us, and that will determine how many dollars you get back on the thing that doesn't work anymore that we sold you. Like, fuck you forever. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I mean, they're not making it easy on retailers, that's for sure. But one thing that is supposedly happening to some retailers, smaller accounts, ones that got, 4 6s.
he said like fours. That was what
Yeah.
was what you told us. So like that, so the account that would have ordered 2 boxes, getting 4 total, were the ones
Or-
who had this next thing happen to them.
Yeah, so a lot of accounts that only ordered like 1 or 2 cases are getting double shipped to them. Double cases. Not bigger stores that ordered, 20, 30, 40, whatever. Some of those
So
are,
if I ordered 2 boxes for 4, 8, so a lot of stores 8 showed up. Now, did
Right.
these people have to pay for those 8?
so as of yet, nobody has been billed for this.
So this is them offloading the shit they couldn't sell, right?
I mean, that is one theory. It is possible.
Okay, during our dumpster war segment, our award-winning dumpster war segment, we talked about how and when they were literally filling landfills with this shit, remember throwing it away and shit, we were like, why not just give it away for free? The goodwill.
Well, I mean, if anything, it will expose more people to the hobby.
Right? Do the right thing. Just if you have extras, give it away, man. If you do something with it, generate some goodwill. So if GW actually just gives them these boxes and says they're yours, that means they heard our podcast and they realized dumpster wars is bad. Don't do that. Give the shit away for free. Good job, GW.
I think that would be a good way of going about it. I can't say that was done on purpose or accidental. I can tell you that, when they're shut down for that week with the warehouse, there has been a lot of changes on the invoicing and things like that. So maybe there's been some improvement. Now, when I worked in grocery as a department manager, there would be a lot of times that the trucks would come in from the warehouse and they would have extra things on them, like a pallet of butter. Like, the fuck am I going to do with all this butter? Like, and they were called force outs, and the warehouse just had too many of them, and they're like, figure it out. And in comes a pallet of butter, and that I didn't have room for, that I didn't plan on getting, and I just had to make a display and pray to the butter gods, put it on sale, something, get rid of it, whatever. And a lot of times that's what happens in that world, that retail world, is when the warehouse is full, shit's got to move, and it either moves to the liquidators, to the Five Belows, to the dollar stores, the Dollar Trees, all that, or you force it out to your network, and they figure it out. And maybe that's what happened in this case. I can't tell you.
That's actually really good insight. Thank you.
If anybody wants a pallet of butter,
Yep.
go work dairy for a major grocery store chain.
Butter Bogos, Winn-Dixie right now.
Shit gets wild. Let's talk some wait, is that all the big stuff? Oh, next week's faction packs for Age of Sigmar. So if you want all the rules, you can obviously get them for free online from Warhammer Community, which is going to be all the temporary rules until the battle tomes come out for Age of Sigmar. Now, if any of your 40k factions don't have a codex book yet, you can download new index cards from the Warhammer community site too, and they actually say on them like balance data, war scroll, data scroll. I'm getting them all mixed up, but it says June 2024 on them because I went and re-downloaded my factions, and I was like, oh shit, they say it right on here because I was checking to see if the the data slate changes were on the downloads and if I had the right version, and then I realized that the whole thing was literally labeled on it, which was great. Like, so good on GW for putting that actually on the PDFs for people to see, because I was like, man, I don't, let me make sure I got the right rules, because dummy me, I'd be like playing with the wrong, index cards and screwing something up. And that was really cool to see. So hopefully they do that when these update as well for Sigmar. A couple other products to talk about real quick. Talisman 5th edition officially came out over the 4th of July as well. So if you really enjoyed that board game, the 5th edition is out. It is done through Hasbro slash Avalon Hill, but you can get it on Amazon. They've already announced an expansion for it. I got mine in. The box is a little bit smaller than the last one I remember. I guess it was through FFG. But I'm definitely looking forward to it. Playing that, busting that out, and playing some of that. And Joy Toy announced two really cool things: Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles action figures. If you enjoyed the ones from the 80s, or I guess 90s as well, those are coming out. They're just as articulated, just as detailed, and just about the same size as the 40K ones. And Magnus the Red was announced today for Horus Heresy Primarch series as well. It's not up for pre-order yet. I didn't reach out to any of the Asian sellers yet to see when they're going to put it up, but hopefully we'll see it here in a few days. Maybe by the time you're hearing this podcast, that will be out as well.
All right.
Who wants to talk about bankruptcy?
Me.
This shit got wild. So where do I start? All right. So Shapeways has two factories. One in Queens, New York, which I've been to, very interesting facility. One in Amsterdam, Europe, actually. So when a company goes bankrupt in the States, if you're not familiar with that, you basically figure out the assets. It goes to a trustee of sorts, depending on how much assets you have. You have to provide a financial accounting, and there might be some creditors that roll up and they're like, hey, dude owes me, or for this bill or that bill or whatever, and then it all gets settled out, and then that's it, the company's done. If they choose chapter 7, if they choose chapter 11 and they want to reorganize and they want to try to continue business, you figure out what you owe, you figure out a suitable payment, you actually have to pay that to some sort of state agency depending on the state you're in, and then they divvy it up equally, or to whatever arrangement depending, to your creditors, and then supposedly everybody's happy and you could try to carry on your business, whatever. So those are the two scenarios. So Shapeways filed for chapter 7 bankruptcy in the States. Now, I didn't know this, but things work way differently in Europe. So if you're just like, hey, I'm done, well, in Europe it goes completely different. Like if the business supposedly, and I don't know all the specific details because it was very hard to find information, but at least in the Netherlands, if you can still sustain the company, somehow the company will still employ the workers and try to reform and reorganize and somehow like exist while all the details are hammered out. So it's almost like bankruptcy is more of the chapter 11 version only in Europe. And that's what happened with Shapeways in Europe. So the factory's still there, and everybody that works there and all the supervisors and everything, they got together and they're like, hey, we're done. And then supposedly everybody was like, okay, and people came in on their days off and they got it all like cleaned up and ready for the shutdown. But then they came back and they're trying to get it reopened again, and they actually sent, or it's in the mail, the orders that were due for some of the sellers worldwide. So like, for instance, Pop Goes the Monkey all the stuff is coming in, like one big batch of stuff that he has to mail out to everybody that had a pending order is coming in to, basically to where he's at, and then he'll have to divvy it up and send it all out to people. And I'm sure, the same thing with a lot of other sellers, whether they're in the jewelry space, the model space, or what have you. So that's good news. But obviously, a lot of designers are very panicked because when something like that happens and you realize that you haven't diversified yourself out on the production side of things, and maybe you don't want this to happen again. So a lot of people are looking for other people to fulfill their stuff for them. Now, I spoke with a couple of different fulfillment people. We also do fulfillment, 3D printing fulfillment, for a number of brands and artists and designers. And I spoke with some of the bigger ones, some of the that have larger facilities and things. And one of them actually made a bid for Shapeways. Now, here's the thing: you can actually go on Shapeways, because Shapeways in the States is publicly traded. They reorganized and they had an IPO in like 2021 or something like that. They're on NASDAQ. Their CFO filed paperwork, and there's a trail. It's up on their press site, and you can kind of see the progression of this getting worse, right? They were actually cited by both the FTC, Federal Trade Commission, and also the NASDAQ exchange themselves, because they didn't follow the right paperwork they were supposed to in May, for their investors, for their shareholders. So it's almost like they're just trying to like kind of buy some time. And then all of a sudden, just before everybody goes on holiday, boom, they drop the bankruptcy paperwork. I mean, to me, it looks kind of like purposeful.
Yeah.
Like,
So let's land the plane on this one. So they went bankrupt, but they still sent out like a batch of orders. Someone's trying to buy them out of bankruptcy, but they're still not a company, and this is kind of hurt not only the employees of Shapeways, obviously, but the people who built entire businesses dependent upon Shapeways.
well, yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Um,
And like you mentioned, Pop Goes the Monkey.
right.
So that is a stunning twist, plot twist. Before we change topics, why do you speculate they went out of business? Were they just not making money anymore? Like, it felt like they were doing fine.
So they had a lot of, from what I can tell, and what I've spoken with other financial experts, really their debt was just incurred in operations. Like their business plan seemed pretty solid. They bought a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of things I can't really say, but like it's looking more and more like an inside job. Like the whole like, hey, the board just wants to get out and get their money and
Okay,
throw everybody to the
that's
wolves.
what I suspected.
Um,
Like that's kind of how I read it, because I
and
was like,
and
that
it,
doesn't make sense because they've been slapping. Like,
yeah, all the machines are there. These $1 million equipment. They auction some of the stuff off, but people that were boots on the ground in the factories looking at buying them out, what they told me was, hey man, the majority of the stuff's still there. Like, we don't get it. And their losses seem to be more on the operation side, which are purposeful, than anything else, to me at least. So I don't know. It's bad that one singular event could impact the miniatures hobby so spectacularly. But I think everybody is changing, and they'll be able to go to some of the different companies like that do fulfillment out there. Like there's Trenchworks out west. There's some folks in Canada. Over in Europe, obviously, there's whatever the reformation of the Shapeways thing, and then also you've got My Mini Factories wing, the what is it? Only Games. as well, that they can actually list their stuff and have it purchased there as well. So there's a lot of opportunity, or anybody that just wants to, if you just want to buy some printers and print some stuff, but getting in touch with the developers and or the designers and actually printing their stuff would be hard to do. You could be a licensee, I suppose, but there's opportunity. But at the end of the day, are people buying and how much are they paying? That's really what you got to ask yourself.
Point. Thank you for touching on that, because a lot of stuff happened while we were on break. And that was a big one.
That was big time.
It's big as hell. So we're
Why
caught
are
up.
people talking about my lips? Like, that's just bad lighting, man.
Oh, your lips look like that in person. Shut the fuck up, dude.
Do they?
Yes. What? Bro. Yeah.
I don't know, man. People just want to kiss you all the time.
Yeah. He's got the most kissable lips in
I
40K.
don't know what it is, dude.
Oh, well.
He's got ruby
I don't
red
know.
lips and pearly white teeth. He's just drinking Kool-Aid all the time, dude.
I guess it's just the cross-sell bear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but being handsome and kissable.
Let's not spread that around.
All right, so let's take a commercial break, listen to our sponsors, and then we're going to talk about secret missions. And we're back. So, Wyatt, I heard you top 10 another GT over the break.
I did. I was at Rage GT in Reno, Nevada, and I got 8th place.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Turns out that if you just text the TO, be like, I'm gonna sleep in round 1, and then win 4 games in a row whenever you show up, like, pretty good for your rankings.
I love it.
It's the Submariner.
It's next level submarine, because I've been trying to submarine tournaments for years by getting up like a fucking hobo early, walking down, finding a coffee, trying to get a breakfast burrito, set my whole fucking army up, and lose my game, right? I did all that stuff. And you were just like, I'm just going to lose this game and I'll see you around 2.
Yep.
Bro, you're a goddamn genius.
Yeah.
Just
Well,
coming down in his
so-
jammies, not even going down there in his jammies. It's still in his jammies, talking on the phone.
To elaborate, right? Because like this was like, all jokes aside, I did not do this on purpose. Weird thing going on with San Diego Airport right now, where if you fly Southwest or any of the other budget airlines, those are all shoved into like Terminal 1, like one half of the airport. And there's only parking at Terminal 2, because Terminal 1 parking is under renovation right now. I did not know that.
Ooh.
So I was like, I'll fly Southwest. So I roll up and park at Terminal 2. I'm like, okay, where do I go for Southwest? And they're like, yo, you got to go way the fuck down there, right? Like, it's a very strange walk path, right? So you have to like park, cross, go to the airport, go all the way across like the length of the airport, out a door, down a covered walkway for a while. Then you get to Terminal 1, then you go inside, right?
What?
So I did not know that. Partially on me for not checking before. I didn't know parking Terminal 1 was like under construction or whatever. So I had to roll that whole distance like with my duffel bag and my case.
Oof.
And push that whole distance. So that was actually kind of rough. Got on the flight, got to Reno, like all that kind of stuff went well, but it was like kind of a rough travel. And then it was at the Atlantis Casino in Reno, and pretty nice hotel casino. However, as you guys have seen in many casinos, it is 100% carpet in there. And it's that like extra padded, super thick carpet that for me it's like doing wind sprints on the beach, right? Because you don't have any momentum in the wheelchair, it's harder to push, that sort of thing. So traveling, getting to the event, going around doing stuff, hanging out, having some drinks, very, very, very tiring. And then it's like midnight and we're all like, what time is round 1? They're like, oh, it's like dice roll at 9 a.m. And I was like, well, that sucks. Cause like we're used to round 1 of a tournament being like 10:30 for exactly that reason. Everybody's traveling in, meeting up with people, might have some drinks. And so I was like, all right. And then went back to my room, immediately got into bed. So I'm like, okay, I got a solid, like I can get like 7.5 good hours of sleep, wake up on time. This will be fine. However, the bed was extremely uncomfortable. The AC was extremely weak. And so it was like hot and uncomfortable the entire time. I slept maybe like 3 hours over the course of that whole night. And so my alarm goes off and I'm like, yo, this is not happening. So I texted Tio, I'm like, I'm not going to show up for round 1, but I will be there for round 2. Immediately went back to sleep. And so even then, like I'm only getting maybe a total of like 5 hours of sleep. Not a ton, but I needed at least 5 to be functional. And then before round 2, I went in and then like started playing and everything. And then it just turns out that like if you that the way the scores were that I got like a 0 and then like 90, 80, 90, 80, 90 for the last handful of games, ended up in 8th place. So it was kind of a fun surprise more than anything else.
You lost game 1, and then you won your other 4 games.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I mean, seems
Congratulations.
okay.
So now we in the after hours segment we talked a bit about secret missions. Which we do have a podcast episode on where we kind of dissect them as objectively as we can and make some speculations about they're not balanced enough because not every army has the same tools to take advantage of the S tier uh, bracket, like put your warlord on their objective or having battle line unit deployment zone while you destroyed all of their battle line or they don't have any of their deployment zone, right? Not everyone is equal on that S tier, right? So that was kind of our conclusion was probably shouldn't play them right now. They're not. It's not. It's just going to create a disparity, and we even are not using them at this moment in the long war doubles for LVO. And now we have some tournament data and Wyatt with his own story of using the secret mission. Tell us about that.
Yeah. Shout out to Matt Larkin in the chat. He was my opponent, one of my opponents
Hell yeah.
tournament, playing that Imperial Guard craziness. That was fun.
Mm.
Right. So when we developed the player pack for LVO upcoming, we decided that like until further review, we would not put secret missions in the pack, right? Mostly because it was very new, and a lot of times with like very new stuff like that, it can very easily get out of hand in a doubles format. So I was just like, until we see what happens, like I don't think this will work for our format specifically. Now, having gone through a lot of games with Pariah Nexus into a tournament with Pariah Nexus, I just don't think secret missions are good for the game competitively. Like I don't think they should be in a tournament setting for a number of reasons. But a lot of times with new things like a new codex or a new rule or something like that, you hear like this happened to me and I don't like it, right? And so like that type of opinion or anecdote is somewhat easy to like kind of shrug off because it's like, well, you just, that felt bad for you and you didn't like it. That's understandable, right? So what happened with my game is I was the person who used a secret mission to win the game. And I still think they should not be in tournament play. I think they're incredibly toxic. And so without like the whole play-by-play, I was playing GSC. Against GSC, I was playing Ultramarines. And GSC is a board control archetype army, right? Like they want to choke you out of primary with their bodies and their high OC values, constantly replenish stuff on objectives, 3-inch deep strike stuff onto objectives, that kind of thing. And so I knew that was going to be the difficulty there, right? And that's what was happening. And so I had to choose a secret mission because it's like if I don't do a secret mission, I will lose the game, right? Because I just can't score primary like this. And the holes in secret missions very quickly became evident through playing that game, right? So for anybody who hasn't fully read it, the first 2 stipulations of a secret mission is 1, the bottom of turn 3, you look at the primary score. Like whenever your turn 3 is done, if your primary is the same as or less than your opponent's primary, you can choose a secret mission. So that's kind of the first one, is being able to have it be exactly the same is kind of a problem, or less than is kind of a problem. because when you think about mechanically how a lot of games go, you don't score primary until turn 2. And so a lot of times in turn 2, turn 3, both players might only have like 5-10 secondary points, but it could be 5-5, it could be 10-5, 10-10, like that kind of thing, right? And then you can keep scoring primary up to a maximum of 20 points. And then at the end of the game, if you complete your secret mission, you get an additional 20 for a total of 40. So that's the other big issue is I can still keep scoring primary after I choose the secret mission. And sometimes that does happen. So in the game that I played, I was kind of choked out, but turns out my turn 3 was a little bit more impactful than I initially thought. And on the next couple of turns, so on turns 4 and 5, I ended up scoring 10 and 10 to get my 20, right? And then, okay, at the end of the game, the only secret mission I was going to be able to do was to push Gilliman onto the opponent's home field objective and try to hold it at the end of turn 3 or turn 5, sorry. And so it's one of those things where it kind of illuminates how there is a disparity in a lot of ways that these can be scored. Because like one of the things we talked about last time we discussed this was battle line is important for some of them, and battle line is not equal across all of the factions.
No.
Some of them is warlord. Warlords are not equal across all the factions. And so really it came down to this. If Gilliman rolls a 3-up, I win the game, right? So the play-by-play is I push Gilliman to position, and then the next turn I go to move him. He dies in Overwatch because he only had 1 wound left. And then it's like, all right, well, if I roll a 3-up, he resurrects, and then I only have to make like a 3-inch charge. And I Oath of Moment the neophytes on the objective because that's like the only play I have. And if that happens and the way the points work out is I win. And so it's like a game which was very fun, very competitive, very good sportsmen from both players the entire time. We were laughing, joking, drinking beers. It was great. When that turn rolled around and Gilliman rolls the 3-up to come back to life, the entire game was then invalidated because that player is going to go on like it immediately went full tilt of like this was fun until this moment. And it's also one of those types of things that is forever going to stick in somebody's memory of like, this is bullshit and I hate it. And on my side, as the player using the thing, I don't like that because I never want my opponent to feel that way. That's a terrible experience, right? Like one of the things that we have talked about in the past of like what good sportsmanship is being equally invested in your opponent's experience as your own experience. And so me having to do that to win the game, even though it's like by the book, no shenanigans whatsoever, making my opponent feel that way and kind of ruining their experience of the game made me feel really bad. And I'm like, this game wasn't fun. Like I didn't feel good about winning that game afterwards. Like it ruined the whole like 3 hours.
It's funny because it also serves to highlight how not all warlords are created equal. Because that dude killed your fucking warlord.
Yeah,
he stopped you, right? Like he's like, fuck yeah. Like what I mean? Think about like mechanically speaking, he stopped you. But not all warlords are created equal. Yours gets back up on a 3.
Yeah.
Right. So that
some warlords get back up on a 2-up.
Yeah. So this highlights right out the gate. Not all warlords are the same. He did actually accomplish his task, but because all warlords aren't the same, that task was then taken, right? So like, and then no matter how awesome the game is, you pick the 20-up, right? So it's we mentioned earlier before, like this isn't the worst mechanic 40k's ever had by a long shot.
No,
not at all. But what it echoes and harkens back to is how we used to play the game, like back in 6th, 5th, 4th, where you played a game. You didn't score in real time. You had some games were like kill points. So at the end, you tallied up who killed the most shit. Then we kind of evolved to do like more than one thing at once. But ultimately,
asymmetrical.
But ultimately, all scoring was done at the end. So like we played a whole game of 40k for fake, like a fake game, because whoever moved their shit on the models and it had the bottom of turn won. And there was a period of time a long period of time where models like Eldar jet bikes were 56 points for 3, and they could
You almost had to shoot them first.
and they can move literally fucking 60 inches across the table, be in reserves till turn 4. So literally, it's secret mission mechanic. Like it's like cool. We played this whole game and had this great experience, and I had that feeling. It aggravated me beyond belief. Like I have so many forever memories, is why it's said,
Yep.
of playing
Everything you worked for, like
Just-
every tactic, every good decision, like it took out all of the things that make for a good game of 40K.
Because
threw it out the window.
Not all scoring units were created equal. Eldar jet bike was the greatest, and it was an all but guaranteed maneuver. And then guess what the most popular army in competitive 40K was at that time? Eldar. Yeah, so that's the problem, is when something becomes the win path, everyone starts building for it, right? And I'm not telling anyone that's wrong. I'm not telling anyone who played Eldar jet bikes they're wrong. You're allowed to play the game and the rules 100%. This isn't even the worst. This is not as bad as Eldar jet bikes. Eldar jet bikes was worse, because this still, in my opinion, has more fail rate than just hiding jet bikes in reserves for 4 turns and winning the game. You know what I mean? Like, there's more fail rate. He almost got you, dude. You know what I'm saying? You could have rolled a 1 and not gone back up. You know what I'm saying? That's not the case for the Eldar jet bike example, you know? So it's not the worst mechanic we've ever had. And it is a season of the game. So I'm willing to see, how it rides out, but all we have is like fieldcraft moving forward, anecdotal like discussion about how it feels to play the game. But ultimately we have 2 things. We're not saying secret weapons are overpowered. We have no way to prove that. We can't prove that because unless somebody streamlines tournament trackers to include secret mission, we have no way to prove if they're overpowered or not. What we can discuss is, as a revenge mechanic, like an ultra combo finish mechanic, like, is it balanced? Is it balanced or good game theory to have the revenge meter be so powerful? You know what I mean? Like, and also so gameable, because is it not true that you could go into top of turn 3 and you see that you're 14-14 or 14-12 and you pick up a card that if you scored it one way you get 4 points, but if you scored another way you get 2 points, keeping the score tie. You deliberately go for the 2-point tie so that you can do your secret weapon tech because you built for that. You have a lot of uppy downy units. You have a lot of great battle line uppy downies. Like, you built for this. So, like, in my opinion, the first time you flip a card and you deliberately don't score the 4 points so that you can go.
Your anecdote's a little off. It has to be primary.
Oh, it has to be a primary.
So, but to your point, you can still do that by simply not being on an objective.
Thank you for the clarification to anyone listening. So the first time you don't stand an objective, right, on purpose, that's where it's a little frustrating.
Yeah. Or like there's also a lot of missions where the primary is like X number of points for an objective and then extra points for doing a thing, right? So say like terraform, right? So an objective is 4 points and terraforming it is a passive 2 points. So if you hold an objective that you terraformed, it's 6 points. You can just hold that objective and not terraform it to make sure that like you meet or are below your opponent's primary at the end of turn 3.
Yeah. But I'm not saying it's the worst mechanic we've ever had. I have to see it more. I have to see if it's actually OP. I have to see if it actually is undefendable. And is it really a bad mechanic if we discover more and more ways to do it, right? Like, because right now, just like anytime there's a meta shift, and this is to be as objective as possible, something initially looks really overpowered, and then everyone figures out how to beat that overpowered thing. That overpowered thing vanishes from the meta, and then new things show up to combat these things, and that original OP thing comes back out of nowhere because the original lists that were designed to beat that vanish because of this new tech. So that's meta, right? Like, that's the circle of life in our hobby. So if people are building for secret weapon tech or secret mission tech, and the have-nots and the haves, like, that gap keeps growing, this might be what we need to get, the have-nots to have more haves. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
maybe.
it's just the issue being there's no way to track it.
Mhm.
Right. Like so an example would be in the battles app, you check a box for who went first, right? So you can track that information. There just needs to be another box to track like if a player took a secret mission or not. Because otherwise all of the information that we're getting about games of Pariah Nexus that can be reported is all anecdotes, right? And all anecdotes are going to be biased in some way of like, well, my army is really good at scoring secret weapon or secret missions, so I kind of like them. It's good for my win path. I like them being around.
Yeah,
Some
like
people
Kara Quinn is
keep
a good
losing
point.
games. Yeah,
He says, I
like
think it's a huge risk, and most players aren't going to do it, but I'm no pro,
it's not a huge risk,
right? So for me, it feels like a huge risk. My army, I can't think of any way to easily secure the secret missions with the way I play in my current list of models and my
Yeah, I
faction.
mean, like that's army list based, that's
Yeah,
faction based, but
but
like
then we have an
overall, they're not a
yeah.
huge risk.
Well, then you have 1+ saves who deliberately went back to Necrons after they were dead to him, right after the nerf. He went back to them because they play the secret mission so well that he's back on that tech. So we will see. It's unprovable at this moment. It looks like, I just think objectively a revenge mechanic that encourages players to trail on the score to then enhance the score later is playing the numbers behind the game, not playing the game.
The fact that it's like gameable is a problem.
Yeah, I don't like. I like gaming things for sure, but not gaming the hidden numbers of the skin that is wrapped around our game. You know what I mean? Like that never ends well historically in games. So that's as a way to play. So that's my only real concern with it. Is that like that's just not that the game is about engagement, positioning, and wrecking face, right? Like that's not. Oh, but if I pull back right here, then I could do this, and then I can hide all my units here, and then on turn 3 I win, or turn 5 I win. Like that's no, that's not tight. If you're holding units back, it's because of some other nefarious intent, not because I have beholden this special card. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's very emotionally charged. I think that's probably like the biggest issue with it as far as the game design discussion goes, because we like to talk about things that are like feels goods, feels bads, what's good for the game, what's not good for the game. And so any like the only like quote unquote feels bads that a player should have is like losing the game, right? So if you lost the game, you feel kind of bad, but then you get over it, right? But you shouldn't be having all of these like, well, this is dumb, this doesn't feel good, I hate this constantly throughout the game, right? That should not happen. If your game is good, both players should enjoy it, and then whoever wins gets to enjoy the win, and whoever loses is like disappointed they didn't win. That's the only feels bads, right? So when we're talking about this, if you lose because of a secret mission, it's very tilting. It's very emotionally charged. It doesn't feel good, especially if you were ahead. Like if you were like kind of doing the math, thinking a turn ahead, looking at the last couple of turns, like if I do this and this, like, and I stay ahead by a handful of points, I'm going to win the game. Right. And then it's like, oh, end of the game, dude flips a card over. It turns out I did this fucking thing and you lose.
I'll give you a stone cold analogy right here. Street Fighter 4 ultra combo finish. That's the revenge meter. You take damage and that meter goes up. You don't have to do anything to gain that meter. And then when the meter fills, you can do your ultra combo. Not all revenge meter combos are created fucking equal. Okay, Zangief's, for example, did 500 damage in a game where health bars were between 950 and 1100. So it's a half health hit, kill.
That's a lot of damage.
So
Yeah.
I played so many fucking ranked matches with Zangief where I'm getting my ass pwned, outplayed, beat the fuck down. And Zangief has 11, he's an 1100 character, so I've got more hit points. So I'm taking my damage, I'm building my meter. I'm just plinking away at them barely, and I have like no life left. And I get the fucking ultra combo off, and it just watched the whole, half the motherfucker's health bar is gone. He's dead. He lost.
Right.
He straight up wrecked me. He went through 1,000 points of my health bar, right? And he still had 500 of his, and I win. And I didn't win because of superior setup. I didn't win because of outplaying the guy. I won because not all fucking ultra combos are created equal.
Yeah.
And
That's just like, it's just
so
not
they
great.
changed that. That was no longer really the mechanic. The revenge meter was something that filled up, that for the most part just supercharged you, that you had to combo off of. You had to do things with that. You know.
And then just like thinking from a like a player's perspective, right? You tend to learn more about your game when you take a loss than when you take a win, right? And so it can also be very frustrating to lose because of a secret mission, because you didn't necessarily learn from your mistakes, right? You're there, like, if you lose a game, you can be like, oh, okay, well, I did not make a good choice right here, or like I understand now that like the dice average for this unit is different than what I thought it was, and it performs a little bit differently. Like, you can gather all types of information about how to like improve your list, how to improve your game, how to make better choices, all that kind of stuff by taking an L during a game. But if you play a game and you are trying to do all of these different things and then you lose because somebody's like, well, you sprung my fucking trap card and I just win now, what do you learn from that? You don't really learn anything, other, because it's all like retrospective, right? Because we don't know what the secret mission is. You can't be like, well, I should have killed that one battle line unit that was doing absolutely nothing for points. Like, it earns me nothing in that turn, when usually you have to make your decisions around like what's gaining me points, what's putting me in a good position to keep secondary or primary, like all that kind of stuff. So like this one unit is inconsequential because I didn't kill that, because I didn't know any better, because it's a secret mission, but he wins the game because of that. Like, what do you learn? Like, that's it's kind of like asking somebody for advice and they're like, fucking skill issue, get good, noob. Like, what do you learn from you learn nothing from that.
I'll say, just the devil's advocate, just to make one more point, because I think we all agree on the stance here, is that it's probably not tight, like, but I will say it has made me think in my list to have a contingency plan, to have a backup plan, not to deliberately trail primary. I'm always going to try to win primary, right? But I have thought of like certain units choices, for example, Nurglings. You know what I mean? Like, I thought they were useless because they can't score things anymore. All they can do is kind of create a roadblock. Well, they're also battle line, and they can deep strike. So there are, I've started looking at Chaos Lords and Terminator armor because they deep strike. You know what I mean? So I started looking at little list modifications that could be like a candidate for a Hail Mary secret mission play. So there is a potential for this new mechanic to overall improve our lists mechanics. There is the possibility that occurs, and there might be just some tweaks needed. Maybe one FAQ. Hey, maybe they're not secret anymore. Maybe that's a big change. Maybe they're like not like straight up flip. This is my objective. This is what I'm doing now.
I mean, what if it wasn't secret? I mean, I feel like you can kind of tell what they're doing. Like, is it really secret?
Not always.
For the most part,
Yeah.
I think we all know what the one they're going for is, but that's just
it kind of depends on the army, right? Like, if you look at the board state and you analyze it, and the opponent doesn't have a wide range of units to begin with, it can be a little bit easier to suss out, right? Like, if I don't have any battle line left on the table and Gilliman is walking towards your end zone,
I think we know what's happening here.
Probably know what's going to happen. You got to try to shut that down, right? If my opponent still has like 8, 10, 12 units, or alternatively a lot of units that can go into reserves and come back the next turn, well into like turns 4 and turns 5, maybe they can like pick something up and deploy it elsewhere that normally can't do that. Like, if like Necrons can like pick stuff up and then like teleport it over to a monolith and do crazy shit. Like, it's not that easy to ascertain when it comes to factions that have a lot of unit variety and a lot of like kind of out of sequence, uninteractable abilities.
Brian Porkchop said something that I could not agree with more. He's like, what if you could stack your deck with the missions you got, so you'd be able to so you have a gameplay, bro? I would be so on board
I would
with that.
also be on board with that. There's got to be a
But,
handful of extra cards because like some stuff you can't do on turn one, right? And you still have to shuffle them.
no, yeah, there's so like
But being able to just like take Marked for Death like out of my deck and
yeah,
never ever fucking have it
like
again,
like
I'd be down
like
for that.
if there's 20 cards, but a deck must be 10. Pick any 10, bro. Like literally, I play tested that. Okay, I like that's why I could back that play so hard. When Maelstrom deck first dropped in 8th edition, we were doing tournaments every month down at Next Gen Games and Comics in Hollywood, and we played the new index that we were so hyped, and we quickly came up with that. Like, because remember that was the predecessor to what we're doing now. There were so many cards that were just dead cards, and we started scheming rules for doing that, right? For making your own deck, and because we're used to picking our missions, from the ITC pack, right? So it was a big change for us when GW said we're not using ITC pack anymore. You're just picking for the book. Okay, but a lot of these make sense, and we remember a lot of these. And then it was an even bigger change when they said now all those missions are random in a deck. I would love to split the difference. I pick the 10 I want to use, still random in a deck, or whatever. You know what I mean? That would be so fucking hype. Fucking let's go. Brian Porkchop for 40K president. Let's go.
That's a fair idea. Yeah, like I was gonna bring up a Maelstrom comparison because the have your warlord on your opponent's end zone objective and they control it felt a lot like that one Maelstrom card that was like, if your warlord's in your opponent's deployment zone at the end of this turn, you win the game.
Yeah, remember that bullshit?
Bro.
Got him.
Like, it kind of felt just as toxic as that.
They were trolling, dude. It's like, so I don't open a discussion. There's pros, there's cons. It's not necessarily the worst thing that's ever fucking happened, and there's a lot of room for it to change. We're ultimately in seasonal 40K, so I'm down to ride a weird mechanic out and play the shit out of it. Nothing's gonna stop me from using the mechanic. Full disclosure, like if I'm gonna win the game and it's all above board and I'm playing the fucking rules, like I didn't come here to lose the game, and I'm not gonna. And like it's like sorry, like this is the only mechanic that allows me to win. I'm not gonna ever lose a game on purpose. You know what I mean? Like that's just not that's not what I'm doing.
Whatever it is, right? Like
the purpose of a game is to win it. Like that's
if the NFL says you got to wear helmets or you can't play, like you put on your helmet. Like it's just one of those things. But we can still have a discussion about how we feel about stuff. And I mean, like if you're listening to this and you're a TO, like really analyze it. Like talk to your community and be like, what do you guys think about this? And then when you listen to that feedback, also gather some information. Like if a person says, I really like this mechanic, what are they bringing to tournaments? Are they biased because their army is just fucking cracked when they can play these? If somebody says, I hate this, like also gather that type of information. Like, is this person just getting like, would they have lost anyway? Like, are they not up to snuff with the rest of the competition? And like really kind of look at it from both sides and try to analyze it objectively, because I think as TOs, we have a lot more autonomy when it comes to running our events than some people might think, right? So it's like, if we can choose all the missions and we can choose whether or not certain rules are in play, we can choose whether or not to use secret missions, because the only way that we're going to be able to directly relay this type of information to the company of like, is this good? Is this bad? Do we want this? Do we not want this? I mean, like, you could just say, we just kind of don't dig it, man. And like, that is enough for them to maybe change it for the next season, or like, a couple of months from now, or whenever the next balance update is. Like, the only way that we're going to be able to do that is as tournament organizers or as players going to tournaments, talking to your TOs, like, are we going to use this? Are we not going to use this? And then also feedback after the event, right? So one of the great, I got to give a shout out to the guys who TO'd Rage, because they were just like, a shot in the dark. This is all brand new. They picked some missions, and a lot of people were like, this mission on this terrain layout with these deployments is just straight up not fun. for like either players. Like this doesn't really work. Not a good idea. The devs, you know, they shit the bed on this one. And the TOs were like, we hear you, we understand. The next time we are not going to do this, but you know, we set our schedule. This is what you got to play. But like we hear you. The next tournament, we're going to do something different because this is not tight, right? And so like make your voice heard to your tournament organizer. You know, if you're an organizer, listen, you know, think about it and decide what you want to do, and just don't think about, you know, what Games Workshop wants. Think about what your players at your event want.
And I think, yeah, I think that's one of the things that people get the most upset about is when their feedback falls on deaf ears, because you know, whatever issue they might have with the event, whether it's, you know, the terrain layout, all that's more standardized nowadays. But if they have an issue like the combination thing that you mentioned, and then the TOs are just like, yeah, whatever, like, or the terrain isn't right, you know, like they don't have the correct templates, etc. for the new Pariah Nexus pack, you know, that's a feel badsy, you know. It's so I think if you're just responsive to the community, it'll go a long ways. And always say you're sorry. Just
Well,
always say you're sorry. Just leave with that.
well said, guys. Well, seems like we did another podcast.
We did it.
Wyatt, close this one out for us.
Rob?
It's the easiest job in the book right there.
Yeah.
All right. So
That's why they pay me the big bucks, Rob.
I guess I'm just sweet lips.
Sweet lips, Robbie. Yeah, dude.
Sweet lips, Robbie.
Flap them lips. Get us out of here.
All right, so that's it for this one. Make sure you head on over to the longwar.net for exclusive content, early access videos, and more. Become a veteran of the Long War today.